Hey everybody, it's Jen from Lodo Family and welcome back. It is menu day. Woohoo! It's that time every week where we chat about a different menu. And most of our menus are for a family of four, but they can easily be adjusted. And honestly, I see all the time in tons of groups where people are posting that it's difficult to feed their family, that what they used to spend on groceries doesn't equal the same anymore, that prices have gone through the roof, and that it's just not possible to feed a family of four for under $100. And I hate to break it to you, I really do. But if you're buying brand name convenience foods, yes, those prices have doubled, tripled, gone insane in the last couple of years. And that's just a sad fact. But you know what hasn't really changed all that much is your basics. We're talking about your pantry staples, your instead of brand name, your store brand. And so these menus are if I sit down on Sunday and I only have $60, this is how I would feed my family this week, and I would feed them at Walmart. Okay. Now, this isn't to say that you have to shop at Walmart. This isn't to say that maybe you have a little bit more or you have a little bit less. I try to pick recipes that are tried and true and that are also adaptable. So if you don't like one part, you can easily switch it out. If you're a bigger family, it's easy to beef them up. This is just giving you real life examples of how you could feed your family, do it well, and not eat ramens all week. Okay. Now, we have used ramens in the past, and I'm not knocking ramens in any way. I'm just saying that whenever I hear people say, it's not possible to feed your family for under $100. Somebody always pipes up and says, yay, we're having peanut butter and jelly and ramen this week. Well, no, we're not. We're going to have good, healthy, yummy food that's kid friendly, doesn't break the bank, and we're still going to do it under $100. So that was my rant. Let's get into the menu this week. Here is the overview this week. You'll notice that we're going to do breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a dessert for under $100. Now, this is for a family of four. So if you are bigger than that, maybe you have six, seven people, you may have to beef up this. But that doesn't mean you have to double everything. I hear that a lot. Oh, well, we need more meat. We need more of this. And that's fine. You can adjust how you need to. But just because it says it serves four doesn't mean that um, it really all depends on appetites. I have small kids, they eat smaller amounts than a grown adult. So take this at face value and adjust it to your needs. That's all I say. You're not going to offend me in any way, but when you say that this isn't possible, that does get me because this is exactly what I would feed my family this week. Here is our shopping list this week. You're going to notice that we're going to use a whole bunch of produce items, and we're mainly only going to use two meats. This is for multiple reasons. When you can pre-cook as much meat as possible, you are going to make your cooking for other nights so much quicker. And I love that. And especially because we are still doing no oven meals. Everything that we're cooking this week is going to use a crock pot, a stove top, an air fryer, and we don't need to make our house any hotter than it is. Now, we do always use a good amount of pantry items, so just make sure that you double check your pantry because you might already have some of these. Now, the only items that we're assuming that you have this week, we always assume you have your favorite cooking oil, whether that be canola, olive oil, whatever, your preference. Um, you're going to need some sugar. It's just plain white sugar. You're going to need butter, flour, and then there's one recipe where you're going to need either vinegar or pickle juice. And we've had all of these items on our list before, so hopefully you have them. If you don't have them, they're fairly inexpensive. You can even pick them up at the Dollar Tree. Now, our total this week came out to $89.34. That was in Billings, Montana. This was a super center, so if you shop at like a neighborhood center or just a regular Walmart, your prices may vary. But I checked this in multiple places and it was always within a few dollars. So wherever you are in the US, odds are good that this is going to be close to your total. Now, there were a few little items that I just wanted to go over, and here are some visuals of this. We are going to need graham crackers. I chose the honey sweetened ones just because they are a little bit sweetened. If you go with just plain graham crackers, you may end up having to add a little sugar if you want that extra sweetness. We are going to use a pack of Kool-Aid. Now, it comes in a zillion flavors. I've seen somewhere it's sugar-free. You can use any of them. Any flavor will work. We are going to need sweetened condensed milk, which is different than evaporated milk. So make sure you get the sweetened condensed milk. We're going to use whipped topping. You would really want to use the kind that's in the tub, not with like the little spray nozzle thing. Um, this also comes in like sugar-free, fat-free, a zillion variations. Just pick the one that works for you. For chicken broth, we're actually going to use a lot this week. This is an item that you could easily make at home yourself, but if you're going to purchase it, you're going to want to go, it's normally labeled as a family size. It's 48 ounces. You'll have a little bit left over, but that'll be cheaper than buying multiple cans or even two 32-ounce ones. We are going to use some coleslaw mix, but you could easily substitute cabbage. Cabbage at this Walmart and most of the others was saying that a head of cabbage was going to be about $4. We'd really only need about a pound. This bag was about $1.97, so it was just much cheaper to go that option, but either one works. We're going to use orzo pasta. This is not a super common pasta. It's interesting because it's pasta, but it looks like rice. There's tons of recipes that we could do that include like rice pilaf or homemade like rice-a-roni. You can use the same pasta for that, but this will be a good one, and we're only going to use half a box, so we can use that later. We're going to do the big pan of chicken breasts. It's about 5 pounds. I will say that these breasts tend to be huge. I mean, absolutely huge. Like one breast usually weighs about a pound. Now, at my house, I'm going to cut these in half long ways and then separate them out. Now, because we're going to use chicken multiple times this week, I would suggest that when you get your chicken home, go ahead and cut it in half, trim off any bits, because sometimes they've got little nubs of fat in there, and just go ahead and separate your chicken out for what you plan on doing. And then if needed, you could throw them in the freezer and defrost them later on. But instead of having to deal with chicken every single time, I try to prep up as much as possible. We are going to use some cornflakes this week. Don't use the like sugar frosted ones, just use the plain ones. The regular cornflakes are usually available to those who have WIC, so that's an easy one. I put romaine lettuce just because that's my preferred lettuce. You can pick whatever lettuce you like. I would check sometimes the leaf lettuce or the iceberg's cheaper. Go with whatever you like. We're going to do a pork roast. There's many different cuts of pork roast. This was just the one that was the cheapest per pound. So we got the most meat for the cheapest price at Walmart. Check your local stores. A lot of them have pork roast on sale right now. So just go with whichever one works for you. We're going to use cottage cheese. It does not matter if it's small or large, low fat, 2%, whatever. But you will probably need a bigger container, like 24 ounces. We're going to use some frozen fruit this week. Walmart has this one where it's kind of like a tropical mix, but you could do just strawberries or blueberries. Go with whichever one you feel like. It does not make a difference. We are going to use a can of tuna, but it's a bigger one. It's a 12-ounce can. For those that don't like tuna, swap this out for canned chicken. Okay? Easy switch. I got a couple messages about onions. I always pick the cheapest onions per pound per item. So go with whatever onion you like. If that's Vidalia, if that's yellow or white, totally up to you. I'm just going with what was cheapest. We are going to need some salsa this week. Once again, doesn't matter if you go with mild or hot or, go with pineapple, black bean, whatever. Make your own. Totally fine. We are going to use some lemon juice. I chose to do the little bottle of lemon juice because it was cheaper. For some reason, limes are relatively inexpensive, but lemons are much more price per item, and we don't need 3 pounds. So play with that how you want. You could even just buy limes if you like fresh juice. It's not going to change the flavor that much. Okay, now let's get in. Okay, so day one is typically on a Sunday at my house. So that means I'm going to be more likely to make a big breakfast. I'm not going to have any leftovers for lunch, and we're going to do something easy that's probably in the crock pot. So for the breakfast, I'm going to murder this, and I apologize, as I am not a Spanish speaker. Huevos rancheros, I think I got it close that time, with hash browns. Now, you can use the frozen hash browns, the dehydrated hash browns, but we have a bag of potatoes. So we're just going to take, maybe 2 to 3 potatoes, and we're just going to chop them up. If you like the skins on, if you don't, either way. And then we're just going to do some easy hash browns. Now, I've added half of a chopped onion to this. Totally up to you. My husband doesn't really care for onions, so we don't usually include them. But here's the kicker. When you are cooking your onions, you're going to add some chili powder. This is what's going to really up the seasoning level on this. And then you're going to cook your potatoes. Now, when you're doing raw potatoes, they take a while to cook in a pan. I do a really big skillet and I'm going to lay them out. And honestly, I'm usually doing dishes or something else because if I watch this pot, I swear these potatoes will never cook. I don't want to flip them a million times because then they won't get great color. So just put them in there, kind of keep an ear out and listen. You can kind of hear them cook and then occasionally flip them. And then once your potatoes look like they are about done, we're going to make a couple little indents and we're going to do a whole egg in each one. Then we're going to spread some salsa around where the eggs are and top it with some cheese, put the lid on and let it go. Now, not everybody likes their eggs the same way. We like them a little runny. Other people like them very firm. Just keep an eye on them and cook them until they are your desired egg doneness. For lunch, we are going to do some simple tuna patties and we're going to serve that on basically a salad. You can use the Italian dressing that we have on the list or just check your fridge, see what other different salad dressings you have. It's totally fine. Now, keep in mind for these tuna patties, we are going to use some of that cornflake cereal. This is why you don't want to get frosted or sugared. And then for dinner, we're going to throw a pork roast in the crock pot. Now, crock pots come in a zillion different sizes. Mine is fairly large, but it's oval shaped. So sometimes meat doesn't want to fit in there. If it doesn't, just cut it up. The pork roasts don't typically have bones in them. So sometimes I cut them up into like thirds and then I just arrange them to how they will work. Now, it really depends on the size of your pork roast and then the amount of celery, carrots, and potatoes that you add. The cooking times are just really, this is an average. You'll have to figure it out. There's plenty of different calculators online that say, this is how big my pork roast is. How long will it take in the crock pot? So I suggest that you definitely look that up. And then one thing that we will do is we're going to use this pork roast for multiple meals. So I'm going to pull out the pork roast and kind of keep that to the side. I usually am going to take about a quarter of it and we're going to eat that tonight and I'm going to save the rest of it. And then I'm going to take my celery, carrots, and potatoes and kind of keep that separate. And then once we eat, I'm going to shred up all of that pork and just put it back in the juice. And depending on how much juice you have, you might want to save some of that for later. That's up to you. If it does seem to make your pulled pork just crazy soaking wet, we don't want soup here. We do want just pulled porks. You may want to just play that one by ear. Okay, day 2. Okay, so for day 2, we are going to do some super simple cottage cheese pancakes with fruit. Now, if you've been around for a while, you know I'm not a big fan of pancake syrup, so I typically like to use fruit. This one we're going to use frozen fruit, and honestly, I just pop it into like a microwave safe measuring cup. I sprinkle either some honey or some brown sugar, microwave it to defrost it, and then that kind of becomes the syrup. But if you like syrup, use syrup. Now, I will say on these cottage cheese pancakes, they tend to be moist. So most people are used to having pancakes that are very dry and fluffy, and this is going to be a little bit different texture. You can put the cottage cheese in like a blender or food processor and make it smoother, but that's up to you. I also suggest not making gigantic pancakes. This is going to make about 8 medium-sized pancakes. I would even go so far as to make like silver dollar pancakes, but then again, my kids are little. We're going to do some leftovers for lunch. For dinner, we're going to do basically some homemade chicken tenders. And we're going to make a lot of them because we're going to use them in other meals. Now, I do love the lemon rice pilaf that goes with this. And it's one of those that I call a leftover buster because we're going to use some lemon juice and some celery. but you could easily add other vegetables in here if you had left over. And we're going to do some simple green beans that we just saute on the stove. So let's go to day 2. Oops, I meant day 3. Okay, so for day 3, we're going to take a little bit of the pulled pork. Now remember, it just has very basic seasonings at this point, and we're going to make some simple pork and egg quesadillas. Now for this one, we don't want it to be super, super wet. So if you stored it in the juice, you may want to just give it a little squeeze and kind of get some of that moisture out. If it's super soaking, you may want to put it in a pan and just kind of saute it to basically cook off some of that liquid. And what I do is I make my eggs and then I just kind of scoot them to the side. I add my pulled pork just to kind of warm it up. And then I just go ahead and mix them all together. You can go ahead and add some shredded cheese at that point. And then we're going to do this quesadilla style. So I like to do where you put the tortilla down, you fill it, and then you flip it over, kind of omelet style, if you will. Or you can do the quesadillas where you put one tortilla, put your filling, put another tortilla, and then brown it on both sides. I don't have very good luck with flipping that, so that's up to you. Now, for lunch, we're going to do some cheesy bean burritos. Now, this is basically, we're going to take a can of refried beans, some salsa. This is a great one to use up any leftover rice. Even if you use the leftover lemon rice, it just gives it a little bit more kick there. Some shredded cheese, and then just wrap those up, and you can add some lettuce and tomato to make it a little bit more full. Totally up to you. Now, for dinner, we're going to do a chicken, spinach, orzo salad. And most salads are like room temperature or cold. This one's actually going to be more of a warm salad. And basically, you can do this with 1 to 2 chicken breasts that's raw, or this is a great one to use for like grilled chicken or any leftover chicken. The thing that kind of throws people off is most people are used to boiling pasta until it's tender and then they drain it. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to cook the orzo in some chicken broth, and it will kind of absorb some of that chicken broth, similar to like rice, but it is pasta. And then once your pasta is tender and it's cooked, we're going to set that aside and let it cool. We don't want it to be boiling hot. So once it's kind of settled down in temperature, then we're going to mix in our chicken and our spinach, and we're going to just kind of toss that all together. It is going to wilt your spinach, and that's what it's supposed to do. Then for our dressing, we're just going to use an Italian dressing, or you can do a vinaigrette. There's lots of great options there. You could even make a vinaigrette at home. Totally up to you. Now, this is another one that you can easily add any kind of leftover vegetables you have. Totally up to you. For day 4, since we have the cornflake cereal, we're going to have that for breakfast. I like to add a little bit of bananas in there, but you can really add any fruit. It's a great base cereal. And then we're going to have leftovers again for lunch. And then tonight for dinner, we're going to have some barbecue pulled pork sandwiches. Now, we already have the pork cooked, and this is a simple one. You can put it on the stove top. You can do it in the microwave. You're just going to add your barbecue sauce to it and let it sit for a little bit. And then we're going to serve that on some hamburger buns. And then we're going to make a good amount of coleslaw. But we're going to save some of that coleslaw for later. So even though coleslaw is really yummy, you don't want to eat the whole pound of it this night. We're also going to make some super simple potato wedges in the air fryer. We do these a lot, and it's just because they're so dang tasty. You can also do them in the oven if you don't have an air fryer. But basically, you just cut your potatoes into wedges. You drizzle them with oil. Top them with whatever favorite seasoning you like. We use the French fry seasoning a lot. We use a lot of garlic and herb blends, whatever you want. And then you just basically either air fry them or bake them until they're nice and golden brown. For the dessert this week, we're going to do a Kool-Aid pie. This is a really great dessert because it's very easy to modify. First off, you can pick whatever flavor you want. On my grocery list this week, I put the cherry flavor because that sounded good. But honestly, there's a zillion flavors of Kool-Aid. You can also use any of the sugar-free ones if you are trying to keep an eye on your sugar or you're diabetic. Basically, we're going to mix that with the sweetened condensed milk till it's fully smooth. Then we're going to fold in our whipped topping. Now, for the crust, honestly, you could just buy a graham cracker crust, but it was cheaper to buy graham crackers. Now, I got the honey graham crackers because they're already sweetened, but if you're using just plain graham crackers, you may want to add a couple tablespoons of sugar to get a little extra sweetness. Play that one by ear. And you just mix it with some melted butter and you make your own pie crust. Then you're going to put the filling in there and then you put it in the fridge. You want it to chill for at least 2 hours, but honestly, I usually make it overnight because I like the the firmness to really be there. And sometimes if it's only 2 hours, it's light and it's tasty, but it isn't as firm. So let's go to day 5. For day 5, we're going to do those cottage cheese pancakes with fruit. Now, we got a pound of fruit, so I would just measure out half of it for one day and half of it for the next. Unfortunately, these pancakes are not really good as far as the kind that you can pre-make and then freeze and then defrost later. Because of the cottage cheese, they really kind of have to be made each day, but they're super quick and easy. Now, for lunch, we're going to take all of our leftover chicken strips. If you don't have a bunch of strips left over, I just chop them up into smaller pieces. We're going to put some coleslaw on top. You can also add whatever your favorite chicken dip is, like a honey mustard or a barbecue or a ranch. And we're just going to make some nice, easy wraps for lunch. For dinner, we're going to do another crock pot meal. This is kind of a retro classic where it's chicken a la king and we serve it over rice. Now, in this recipe, I've included frozen peas, but you know what? If you already have a bag of mixed veggies or anything else that would be good, you can easily swap that out. On these type of recipes, I would just go with whatever vegetables sound good to you. I'm basically going to make like a chicken and veggie gravy that you serve over rice. Now, normally I do include a lot of options for snacks, but apparently some of the fruit that I pick, not everybody likes, and that's okay. This is one of those areas where you would just look at what was available at your local stores, at Walmart, wherever, and just pick what works in your budget. I did notice that Walmart this week did have some good deals on mandarin oranges, on Fuji apples, even on like the 1 pound thing of kiwis. They even still have good prices on watermelon. So, whatever fruit your family would like to eat this week, pick that. Our total only came out to $89. So you have lots of wiggle room there. For day 6, we're going to finish off those cornflakes with bananas. We're going to have some leftovers for lunch. And then for dinner, we're going to make a super simple chicken, mushroom, asparagus pasta. And as a bonus, we may still have some of those hamburger buns left over. So we're going to make some either cheesy garlic bread with Parmesan cheese or just regular garlic bread, whichever way works for you. Now, this pasta dish includes mushroom and asparagus, but you know what? If those aren't your favorite, you can easily swap them out. Take a look at your sales flyer, see what is in season and what is cheap, and then pick the ones that you like. This is going to use bow tie pasta, but you know what? That's not essential. You can use any shape that you like. Check your pantry, use what you have. You could even do this with like a linguine or a spaghetti, totally fine. This is a great base recipe that I use all the time, and I swap stuff out as needed. And then just a reminder, this is just the way that I would cook these. You can easily mix and match the breakfast, the lunches, and the dinners. It's just showing you ways that you can cook, use leftovers, and have very little food waste. Now, I never put a day 7 on here because day 7 is always listed as leftovers. So day 7 is typically on a Saturday at our house, and we are going to use up any and everything that we have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if for some reason we do not have anything left over, that's when we're going to have peanut butter and jelly because my kids love it. We're going to use a Plan B meal. Those are those super easy convenience foods that you hopefully bought super cheap and you keep them in your freezer just in case. Or maybe this is pizza night and this is your one splurge and you buy pizza. Totally up to you. You've got to be able to work with what you have and you got to use your brain a little bit and just decide what works best for your family. Now, down below in the description, I'm going to leave a couple links. The first one is to my website. You can go there, you can see all of the slides, so you can look at them. There's also a free printable PDF. It prints on the standard home printer. It's an 8.5 by 11 sheet. You can adjust the size if you need to. There's also a link to Walmart. This is my favorites list, and it's basically the whole grocery list that I did. And all you have to do is click on there and then change the zip code to your area, and it will show you exactly what the cost would be. Now, some items are not available in the same sizes everywhere. So I would just scroll this list, and sometimes you'll see an item is just way higher than normal. Like I may have barbecue sauce on there, that's $1.97. But when you change it to your area, that barbecue sauce is not offered locally. So it may just list it as $18. Well, obviously that's not a good deal, and I don't want you to buy that. So you will just need to adjust if any of the prices are crazy. Now, I also put that we have a Facebook group. We have lots of discussions over there, and we get lots of great ideas. So definitely check us out there. Just search Low Dough Family on Facebook. We also have a Facebook meal planning group. This is the place where you want to go to see other people's meal plans, see what other people are cooking, see what new recipes they're trying out. If you have questions like, hey, I have 27 pounds of carrots and I don't know how to use them, just go over there and make a post, and there are tons of people that would love to jump in and give you ideas and help you in any way they can. So, last but not least, we're going really long this week, and I apologize. I just can't stop talking. Sign up for our email newsletter. We send it out once a week. You get the sneak peek of the menu before it's released on Facebook. Then, I don't remember what I was going to say. Oh my gosh, my mind went blank. Okay, so I guess that means this ended. If I missed something, I apologize. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I'll see you again next week. Bye.